Welcome back, listeners, to Off Over 50 and Fired. Now what with Linda
and Shelley.
So last episode, we talked about leveraging your experience to be a successful consultant. In this episode, we're going to talk about leveraging a passion to create a consulting business. So, Shelley, you know what tomorrow is?
No, Linda. What? Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Turkey Day?
Turkey Day. Yeah, so I think we should offer our listeners both a red and white wine recommendation. So, Shelley, why don't you get started with the red?
That's right. I'll start with the important one, the red. So to keep it light, since it's turkey, we're recommending a Pinot Noir, a Vintner's Reserve called Willamette from the Samuel Robert Winery.
So a good white wine pairing for your turkey is Chateau Ste. Michelle Riesling from Columbia Valley in Washington. It has crisp apple aromas and flavors with subtle mineral notes, which are great with something like turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes.
Yep, and mine, that hearty red wine is good for those crisp, cold November days.
Cheers!
To talk about translating your passion into consulting, we're glad to have our friend, listener, and three-peat guest back, Suzy.
It's so nice to have you back, Suzy. We're glad to say that you have the distinguished honor to join the three-peat guest club.
Thank you so much. I am so honored to be a three-peat guest. I really appreciate it, and I'm so happy to be here with you guys today.
So we usually take our guests out to lunch, but I think on this occasion you deserve a bottle of wine.
Thank you. I'm very excited about that.
So you get the opportunity to choose one of the wines that we've recommended today.
That's a tough choice because they both sound amazing, but since it is the day before Thanksgiving, I have a very specific tradition on Thanksgiving that I think would go best with the red wine. What I do is after the Thanksgiving meal, when everyone's gone, I take out a piece of my dad's homemade bread and I put on it turkey, a little bit of cranberry sauce, and a big piece of brie cheese, and I warm that up, and I think that would go really well with the red wine. So I'm going to go for the Pinot Noir. But thank you, Linda, for a white suggestion for turkey for another time.
Okay, Shelley, you won that one.
I did win that one, and I'm sure you have more than one glass of red wine, right?
No comment.
You could start on the second bottle after the red.
Thank you so much.
All right, so Suzy, we know that the consulting opportunity that you created was really a merger of two pillars in your personal casita. So since that was from season 1, episode 7 for our listeners, maybe you want to give our listeners a quick reminder of what a personal casita is?
Sure. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the personal casita again. It's something that's really been very helpful to me as part of this journey. And it's a simple visual representation of a personal strategic plan. And casita means little house. And this visualization follows the structure of a house because there's a roof, which is your mission or vision statement, a structure, which is your areas of focus, and then pillars holding up the structure and the roof. And those are the specific activities that support your focus areas and your mission. And the house is a key visual for two reasons. First, as when you build a house, this strategic plan is built from the ground up. It starts with the activities that you spend time on, and then from that determines what your focus areas are and your vision statement. It's really important to build that from the bottom up because otherwise you have a vision statement that might sound great, but it's not rooted in anything that you actually spend time on. The second reason why the house visual is important is because, like a house, you live within this framework, and you must constantly assess and maintain it the way you do with your home. All year I've reflected on my 5 focus areas, and they form the structure for my weekly to-do lists. So this is something I revisit every day, every week, and it helps me stay aligned so that the things I spend time on are laddering up to the things that are most important to me. And in 2019, I have a really exciting enhancement plan for my personal casita. I can't wait.
Well, maybe that would require a quad-peat for Suzy.
We'll see.
Absolutely. You got to come back and share that. Can't wait.
I would love to. I'm so excited.
So Suzy, how did that merger happen, and how did you turn it into a business opportunity?
So one of my areas of focus was professional development, which was about keeping my skills sharp and developing new skills. Another key area of focus was spending more time focused on my daughter, who has significant special needs. And I wanted to use this time to learn about resources and get to know other parents with children like her. So I started connecting with people with these two ideas in mind: my desire to do better at my specific professional skills and learn more about the special needs community. And the good news is that when I put those two things together, there were people and organizations out there who found that combination helpful. And that ended up being a really great business opportunity, which for me really means when an individual's skills are matched with an unmet need out in the world. And that's what really unfolded when I put those two focus areas together.
So then, Suzy, how did you network and create the connections to really bring the business opportunity to life?
I know that networking is tough for a lot of people, and you guys have done a great job tackling that issue and giving specific guidance on how to do it well in a number of different areas. For me, networking is about connecting. It means reaching out to people who I know and like, people who share a common interest, or who are in a position to help me for some reason. And that is really important to think about, because when you think of networking in terms of connecting, it gives a relevance for your contact. So for example, I had reached out to a woman 5 years ago who was introduced to me by a mutual friend. She was someone who is a very successful businesswoman, not someone I would have met in my professional life because she's in a very different industry, but she has a child with special needs similar to my daughter's. So I had had this conversation with her 5 years ago, and I reached out to her when I was thinking about trying to do something professionally that related to the special needs community. And she was so willing to connect. I emailed her and asked for a 20-minute phone conversation, and she got back to me right away, wanted to have lunch, really spent a good amount of time with me, looked at my resume, and she helped me connect with people running an organization that was exactly the kind of opportunity that I was looking for. And I am doing a consulting assignment with that organization. And because we had that connection, it didn't guarantee anything, but it gave me an opportunity to talk about what I was interested in. And she could see the connection because we had that shared interest, that shared passion.
And she gave you a whole bunch of helpful hints.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
No
I
question.
like the idea of not making the assumption that you haven't connected with someone in a long period of time, or that maybe they haven't gotten back to you, right away. That means it's no, and they're not willing to help. So that's an incredible story, I think, to get people excited about trying to reach out and make those connections and not being a Shelley shut-in.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what are you doing now, Suzy?
So at the moment, I have 5 very different consulting initiatives going on.
Wow.
I'm working on marketing materials
That's
for
great.
the nonprofit that I just mentioned. I'm coaching the CEO of a startup. I joined a group delivering workshops on effective business writing to foster decision making. And I have 2 opportunities that are pro bono consulting assignments, otherwise known as community volunteering. But I call them pro bono consulting projects because they fall directly in line with my professional work. One is for the special education PTA, the other is for a community fundraising event, but all of the things I'm doing are building my professional skills, so they're pro bono consulting assignments.
I love that rebranding. I just love it. I think people need to be creative the way that they talk about their skill sets, even if they're doing it for free or from a volunteer perspective. It's still bringing your expertise and experience to further somebody else's goal and objectives.
Yeah, and it also just gives people the chance to see, because you're going to put that out there on your resume, like the softer side, the person who wants to volunteer work or whatever, that, you're doing it pro bono, which I think is pretty cool.
So, Suzy, what do you think, now that you've been doing some consulting, what do you think the advantages are of going into consulting?
The main one is it's really fun to see different offices, different industries, different people. After being in one organization for so long, it's energizing to move around and be exposed to so many different types of situations and environments. You also learn a tremendous amount in a short period of time about all kinds of different organizations and challenges. And you're able to focus more on the work and less on the kind of office politics that you so often get embroiled in when you're working for an organization for a long time. It's easier to let things go that might bother you when you know it's not long term. You know you're there for a specific purpose, so, things don't become a big deal. And finally, you can be clear up front about what's important to you and create the kind of environment that's going to help you be successful professionally. I have a friend who's a very successful independent consultant, and she does not want to work in a cubicle. So when she arranges an assignment, she makes sure that she can work from home because she knows that's where she's most comfortable and most successful, most productive. And that's the kind of thing, you have that kind of control when you're an independent consultant.
And what I really like is if you don't like the people because they're not really nice, it's temporary, right?
Sure.
It's gonna end shortly, so you just kind of grin and bear it.
Yeah.
And as you can tell, Shelley has had some experience with that.
I have, and it made me feel much, much better to know I'm not going to see these jerks afterwards. So, Suzy, how does this fit into your long-term objectives? And do you feel like it's really you're achieving your vision?
Every one of the projects I just described is consistent with my personal vision statement and my areas of focus in different ways. So that's why having that North Star, that personal casita, has been so helpful because it helps me make decisions about what to pursue and what is not worth the effort because it doesn't align with either my skills or where I want to focus my time. Because when you're a consultant, the only thing you have is your time. It's your most valuable resource. And you really need to be careful about going in the direction that's going to bring things in that are meaningful. And that's why I'm so glad you started this with the whole discussion about the personal casita, because that's the starting point for making sure that you always have that sense of purpose in everything you're doing.
So now let's just step back, Suzy, and can you tell us what you've learned and what you think has worked well, and what would you do differently next time around starting a project or pursuing a consulting job?
The first thing I've learned is just how fun it is to connect with people in this way, and how fun it's been to learn about different kinds of environments, different kinds of industries, and also from a personal standpoint, learning more about where I feel more comfortable, what kinds of situations or environments make me feel less productive. Again, when you work at one place for a long time, that element of personal development really atrophies because you're in one place. When you have the chance to explore different environments, you learn so much about yourself and what you need to do to be successful in any environment. I think I've also learned how to be brave about following up on suggestions, reaching out, not taking it personally if somebody doesn't get back to me. I had a recent example where I had been connected to someone over the summer, and I emailed this person, and he was expecting an email from me, but I did this in August, and I never heard back. So I was thinking about it recently, and I thought, August is a tough time. People are traveling, they're away. I'm just going to reach out to him. And I picked for my time to do that a Friday at 1:00. Because I remembered when I was working, that was a time when I was closing out the week. I was on my email. I tended to be at my desk, and I thought maybe he's around. So I emailed him. He got right back to me, scheduled a meeting for the following Monday, and we're off to the races. And if I had given up because I emailed him and he didn't write back, I would have missed out on that opportunity. So just being resilient and remembering not to take it